Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Was there an upgrade? We'll see what is the issue. Generally, it happens when it is trying to create a new instance of the database at the back end, right? Then only it will throw this error if something goes wrong during trying to create a new instance of that particular database. But I don't think generally it comes when we are changing this extension properties, right? Incrementing this. Generally, it appears like this. I'm thinking it will not come in your case. Database upgrade is in the software. Last upgrade phase must, and the database must be restored to 2 servers. Do one thing, clear this code to your file structure where you have kept your database. Sorry, where you have kept your cleaning up. Go to guide by 10 means previous parent folder. Go to the C drive. Is there any temp folder here? That will be in users, right? It should be in tmumpy. It will be there in C. I think your DB drop has happened. DB, something went wrong in the DB. Is there any tmumpy folder here? No, right? Go to the no. No, it will not be here. Guide by 10 to cleaning up. No, right? We'll do DB drop then. To do DB drop, just a second. Cannot, you can see, cannot delete file not found. What is the error? Cannot delete. DB file guide by 10. Have you deleted it manually, that temp file? No, I did not. Go to that repository which it is telling. Here. Guide by pipe training up /db. Do one thing. Delete this temp folder here. Here it is. We'll do one thing. We'll manually delete the entire DB folder. Manually delete and everything which is inside this, right? Everything deleted. WhatsApp. The action can close the studio and then delete. Delete these two. Now start the studio. And also, what is the command to see the files? Which files? I mean, if I want to, if an X file is present or not. Ctrl-Shift-N. NN. Were you able to perform the lab sessions? Without means only the PC, means not the verification, because I know verification. You are facing this issue. But were you able to do it from the PCF files? No, I was I was talking here and then I was trying to see why it is failing and all those things. I did not get a chance, but I'll try to do it today. Now you just start the server. Yes, you can start the server. Always try to just run the server in debug mode. I always prefer that. Any particular reason? For development perspective, right, we'll be able to put the debug points and try the issue. Suppose some error is coming, it will come up with more loggers in the console. Got it. Now it started. Whenever there is this kind of issue, just delete the DB folder. Actually, it doesn't happen frequently. I don't know what has been done in your machine, why it was occurring. I have something related to this. If your database is locked, then you can drop the database in your local and go ahead. But in real time, it doesn't happen. It's in the local setup only which happens. You can just start and load the sample data again. But we need to load the data again because you have just done the DB drop right. Shift-Alt. To load the sample data, I need to go to the Alt-Shift-T. Beside administration, there would be a drop-down. What are GOSU queries? GOSU queries is also similar to the SQL queries. We have to write the SQL scripts, wherein we'll write some scripts and it will perform the task. Either it will perform the task to view the records of the table right with the select method, or rather we will have an update statement and insert row statement where we can update the database values. Similarly, we can do all these operations and we can write all these queries in GOSU as well. And in the back end, we are doing it from the coding standpoint, right? We are writing all these queries from the coding perspective. But in the back end, when we write such code for that particular GOSU code, right? In the back end, the corresponding SQL code is generated. SSQ queries are generated in the back end and it gets executed. No matter, it's built on top of SQL, right? That's why SQL queries get generated in the back end. But we don't have to worry about all those SQL queries. We just have to worry about only GOSU queries. As a Guidewire developer, we just focus on the GOSU queries. A GOSU query will contain two types of objects. One is the query object and another one is the result Object. What is the difference between the query object and the result object? Always. Query. First thing is query object. First step, this is the step 1 of creating a GOSU query. Step 1 is query object. And step 2 is result object. Take an example of the SQL script write. In an SQL script, you write something like select column name, like name from table name. And then you will write a where clause, where something write. This is the SQL query. Suppose you want to write this type of query using GOSU, write what you will do. This select comes under the result object. Why do you select here? In the GOSU query just to print the values, right? Just to print the values and table format that we can refer it. Similarly, a result object is used that we could get the result of whatever we are querying in the table. But the query object, this query object, whatever we are doing from here, we are specifying the table name here, right? We have to specify the table name in the query object and we are specifying the where clause. Clause is also different constraints we are specifying here, right? After the where clause, all those constraints need to be identified and need to be added in the query object. Only the select and the printing of the objects would be taken care in the result object. There are some syntaxes which will combine these two things, query and the result object, and we will be able to form this particular complete query in GOSU. I'll open GOSU Scratchpad to show you how our query object and result object look like. You go to GOSU Scratchpad. This is a main method, right? It works like a main method wherein you can, if you are doing some development, right, you can execute your code here and in the console the values get printed. If you want to do real-time changes, right, you can test your changes. You can test your code from the GOSU Scratchpad. Let's suppose my server is not yet started. I'll start my server. We have system out print and write in the Java. Similarly, we have this print. We just use print and then under brackets we'll pass the string that it prints that string in the console. It will act like a main method and we can test our code. Similar like, let me give you an example. Print in string hello world. When I'm going to run this, I will run it in that once my server is upright, this button will be enabled. Running debug process. I'll click on this running debug process. Then my console will be appear in the down. We need the screen and I'll be sure I'll be able to see this statement. Whatever we give here, it will be presented in the console. Similarly, if you want to show the detail of a B contact entity, the rows of a B contact or a B person entity, right? We have many persons included in our database, right? I want to query the a B person entity. How I will query it? First, I will create an query object, right? I'll name it as query obj. This is the syntax to create. There is a package at g.api.database.query. There is a class named query which will contain a method and it's a static class. That's why we are not creating any object of it. We are directly calling it. Inside the query class we have this make method in which we have to pass on the entity name which we are going to query. A person. My query object is done. I've given the I'll also. Meanwhile, I'll also mention for reference here. The corresponding SQL. Select start. This is my corresponding SQL and I'm writing the corresponding GOSU query for this particular now. I need to run right now. Result object. I have the query object. I'll do query object.select. There is a select method on this. I'll call this. My result object is also ready. Now this AB person would contain multiple rows, right? If I want to iterate on this part, this result object would also contain multiple rows of data, right? What I will do, I'll create a for loop. To iterate in the result object, it will result in the result object. Result object is it will contain the area of the AB person object, right? I'm iterating through each result and I'm printing the result. Just to show in the console. If I add the print statement, right, it will appear in the console. And I can. If I suppose I want to print each and every field, then I have to just give it star dot. Sorry, not star. Which field you want me to print? I'll see in the result. Object to cell phone. Date of birth, first name. I'll print first name. First name. First name would be printed once I run this. My server is started or not? Debug is enabled. It is still starting. This is the query. Once it is. My server is not fully started yet, but debug is enabled. But let it start fully, then only we'll debug it. Now let's take an example of one more query. Sorry, we are just wearing first name here. Here also we'll select last name. Person where we here, we are adding the clause also. First name equal to something. We have to write this query. We'll have the same steps. We'll write a query object. Let me copy it. As I said right in R, I have defined it in the same name. I'll define it with some different name here. You can see I have told you right. If you want to add constraints, we have to add the constraints in the query object, not in the result object, right? After we pick up the entity. After we have given the entity details from where the query has to refresh the results, we will put the constraints like the dot. We'll see what are the constraints available. We have to compare right with the first name. I'll put compare. And in the first parameter, I need to give the field name, which I need to compare like a person. What is the field name? I will compare it with first name, right? First name, what should be the constraint? It should be equal to, right? There is a package named reloop where which will contain all the comparative operators. Let me check what equals. I have equals here in this low package. I have in the second parameter. I have given equals in the third parameter. I'll give the string. Oh, you can just see this, how we have written the compare statement here and how we are writing the compare statement here. Now this part is done. We have to take care of this part. Right? For this we will write a result object echo query object.select. Again, it can be possible that it contains multiple results. We'll iterate it with the loop. And here, we'll give some other things like what do you want to get? All the records, all the columns in the particular result.star. Result.star would not give me. I'll tell you what dot star would give me if I want to show all the fields here, right? What I will do here is, let me comment it here. I'll just convert it into toList. I'm just converting into a collection of all these results to list. And I'll print this list correctly. To print the list, you just give the print list name. You go through. I'll just come. I just print the list. It will give me the complete list of items. Let me run this query first. I'll just make it like this. I'll run the first query first. Let's see what are the results. This is the console. You can see these are the results. It's the first name of all the person entity. What I'll do, I'll just comment it out and I'll just uncomment this one. But I might not have any result with the link. I need to change it. I'll change it with Johanna. The first name is Johanna. It will return all the results. Johanna Kate. You can see this area. This area contains only one element. Only first name and last name are there an AB contact for the particular record. You were asking about all the fields, all the columns. To print all the columns, we could be using some. Let me see what we can use. Generally, we do not print all the columns. We'll specify from the GU which all columns we need to specify. We'll specify it manually. We don't have any such feasibility here, where we can in one go, we can print all the columns. But if you want to see the backend query write for SQL query, you can see it like this. You can just whatever result object you have write to the select method. You can just print that directly. It will print the backend SQL query for you, which is running internally. No, I don't think we have such feasibility herein. The question is we are going against. We are selecting a table called AB person, but the object when you print it's going against AB contact. It's going against AB contact. Why? Because in the backend we have only AB contact entity, right? And we have learned in the subtype of A, B contact. And in backend, we don't have any table named like AB person physically in physical database. Right? We have discussed about that in local. If I want to see the database, H2 database, how do I do that? H2 doesn't have any like a SQL management server is there, right? Studio is there. We don't have anything. As to database, we can see it from here, only we don't have any console where we can see the H2 database. But there is a feasibility where we can. If we don't want to use H2, right, we can use SQL as well. Just for the storing. If we want to use SQL, we have to define if we want to see those tables in the tabular format. Right. The recommendation is to generate SQLDB and connect the SQLDB instead of using the H2DB. How it is done, I'll tell you. There is the database config.xml file. You have to first install the SQL database. Created the database name and then you need to give the connection logic here. Here you can see we have H2 database, DB type is H2, right? And the URL also is of H2. That's why we have a database. But if you want to connect it with SQL, we can do it with SQL also. But there are many configurations which we have to do apart from this. One means while doing the SQL setup. But as to database comes default with the guide right for local development, it's recommended to use H2 database only for production support and all those stuff. Right. Generally, SQL database is used for production support projects. Even when working, you will be working on H2 database only. Yes, in locally, we will be working in H2 database only. Because it comes in by default with the Guidewire, and that's why we use it. We use H2 database, but can be SQL, can also be configured. If you want to see everything in the tabular format, then we can configure SQL as well. In my current project, in my previous engagements also, we were using H2 only in development projects. That's how it is. This is pretty much about the query when you're making a join and all those things. I'll discuss it. We'll come to that again. First, let me tell you how to write and constraints right here. What we have to do is we have to suppose we want to write an constraint right here. Let me remove it. I want to write an and constraint on query object. I'll give query object dot compare. This is first constraint, second constraint with which I want to do. And it is not compare. I'll put last name. Sebastian. Now these two constraints are ended together. Because we have done it means we have mentioned it one by one. Whatever the result object will be coming, it will come as a result of and because it is an or this is and. This is and but for or because. First it will filter out the results based on genre. Then on top of these results, it will filter out the results based on Sebastian. It is ending these two constraints together. But if we want to have our constraint, right, suppose we want to have this as our constraint. What we will write is, I'll write in our constraints, I'll write a query object dot. Or there is an or method which you, and then I'll give the. Just to say, I'll explain you what I'm doing. This is how I need to make it, or we are using the concept of blocks here. In query object or is a method in a query object which will take an expression in the parameter. Expression as in what? You can see here we have ELT. Sorry. We are defining this ELT here, right? This is the definition with the use of ELT, right? We can write the comparison logic in the or statement. This is go to block actually. And this or is the state or is a method in query object which use go to blocks. If you want to write an or condition, right, we can write it in the go to blocks which will use any variable. You can give any name of the variable here. We are using ELT here. And with that, with the help of that variable, you can define the or conditions in the braces. Whatever is mentioned in the braces, it will take as an or condition here. There is a syntax for go to blocks. Go to blocks are used a lot in multiple places. The syntax of the go to block is suppose, let's say in this example, or is a method which is taking go to block in the parameters. Right. The syntax of the go to block is round braces, opening the round braces, backward slash. Variable name, any variable name. Generally by default we use ELT, but it can be any variable name. Then dash. My keyboard is very name. This is a syntax of go to block. Here in this curly brace, right, we can write our code inside this curly braces, and with the round braces, we define the GOTO block. Here, you can see here, right? We have defined the GOTO block here where the ELT is a variable name, and we have defined the condition inside the curly block. This is how we define it. If you want to have a join and or you do that in GOTO block, we can explore these all the functionalities. Like suppose you want, as you said, right? You want to join. Do we have a documentation like to see what actually this join and outer join, inner join, all these things. These are advanced concepts. Actually, these are not covered in the basic trainings. We don't. We will have the documents of this, all these, and you will be able to see it in the training app itself. You will not be able to see these documents in the PPTs. You will be able to see it in the here itself. Let me check. Not yet. Training app. For each repository right there is a different documentation which is present for claims. There is a different documentation which is present in the claims and the repository. Similarly, for training app also, there would be a different repository where the documentation would be present. Like there is a doc folder here present here, right? You can open the doc folder. You can go to the index. You will search for join. It says claims. It's a claim center documentation. I don't know why training app stores the claim center documentation, but these topics are generally pretty much generic, right? For all the applications. These the way how you write, very same for all the applications. You can see there is this is a document. I want to have some help on Go to scripts or Go to queries. You can see here there is a guide. Integration guide is there. Configuration guide is there. Let me check features and let me check. Best practices are also covered here. What best practices you can follow? It's a Bible, but the basic concepts, right? Those are covered in those PPT. If you want to have a look on the basic concepts, you can just take a look on the PPT and look and know about the concepts. But if you want to go something deep, right? If you want to write complex logics, complex queries, then you can refer this guide as well. And how often do you write these complex queries in the guide? In guide generally, we won't be joining the entities a lot. I would say that 70% of the queries which we are writing, right, they would be there. It would be simple queries only. It won't be much queries because we are writing the business logics, and guide by data model is also a very sorted type of data model. We don't use too much of join queries. But I'm not saying that we don't use it at all. We use it 30%. We can say that we use the join queries. We join different tables and we use that. But most of 70% of the queries are written simply. You can control Shift F and you can write queries. You can see from here as well, from the content itself. This is the entire document with Let me search for join. You can see something is written about join, but I will tell you from here, from the application side, how we can write the join query. There is a join method here already. And inside of it, you can give the entity name which you want to join. Suppose there is an 80% entity right in the query object. You have mentioned the 80% entity, but the entity which you want to join is the contact. The contact cannot be joined by because it's a subtype, right? It's a super type. But if you go and we can join that. Yes. We contact. And not resolve this method. Join a big contact. Sorry, I need to make the reference using every person only. I will make this join with the user because user entities also having this foreign key relationship, right? User assigned user. Create assigned user. I'll go to this. Only foreign key relationships would be joined, right? I have to make this reference with the 80% entity only. Now I can write my compare clause here. Like this. Assign. Now I can write my conditions here as well. So, what is the name? A big con. Let me check what is the assigned user. User is the entity. Let me try to directly call AB contact. Oh, even I also don't remember the exact one. I need to search for it. I need to search for this join query. Give me some time, that's when we can. I do not remember the syntax of it. We can look at it tomorrow. My studio is also stuck. That's all and the constraints are written and you in the reload package, right? There are other competitors as well. If you go to the reload package, you can see that there is equals, not equals, less than, greater than, all these things are there. Accordingly, you can keep it. These queries which you are writing here, right? These are only for read-only purposes. But you are not doing any updation in the database here, right? If you want to do any updates based on the queries which you are writing, if you want to update any results in the database, You have to write these queries inside a bundles. Then comes the concept of bundles. Why bundles are used? Bundles are used for updating the database, or conversely, we can say that bundles are used in transactions, used in transactions. This is when we are saving some data in the database, right? This is also a transaction, right? Suppose there are 4 fields. Let's take an example. There is field. I'm going to the notepad again. A block is different from bundles. Yes, block actually goes to blocks, which we have specified here, right? Go to. Blocks will be used in bundles. We'll define bundles using go to blocks. I'll show you tomorrow how we can define that. But these are the two different things. Block is just a syntax. But bundle is a concept in Guidewire. Bundles, you can also. First thing, if someone can ask you that, what are go to bundles? There is a one-line answer that if you want to define a transaction in Guidewire, we have to define inside a bundle. A transaction can be, let's take an example, right? When we suppose we are sending money to some bank account, right? It has to be deducted from the payer's bank account and it has to be credited to the receiver's bank account, right? If it is deducted from payer's bank account and it has not received some error has been occurred in the receiving end, right? The complete transaction would be reverted, right? For first step is not completed. The second step is some error is there, then first step will also be reverted, right? If we have some type of behavior, if you want such type of behavior to be to commit the data in the database, suppose we have committed some data in the first or the second line of code. But in the third line of code, while updating the database, some error has occurred. It will roll back the first and second line also. And whatever we were trying to store in the first and second line also, right? It will revert that. All these 3 lines, suppose, if you want to have all these 3 lines run together, right? We have to create a transaction out of these 3 lines of code, and the transactions are created using bundles. This is a high-level concept why bundles are used. Bundles are used to create the transactions in Guidewire. If we have multiple lines of code, and if you want to run all the multiple lines of code in a single transaction, then we have to define a bundle and then we run those transactions. And the transaction could be anything. Either it can be a business logic or it can be something wherein we are storing the data into the database using GOSU queries. These concepts are used together, GOSU queries, bundles, everything. They are used together in the real-time implementation. Tomorrow, we'll discuss more about the bundles. What are the type of bundles present and in which scenario we'll use which bundle? What are the capabilities of bundle? All this stuff, right? I think I've already uploaded GOSU queries. You can go through the GOSU queries documents and finally do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.